Hello, my name is Angela Brennan and my hobby is card making. I'm going to share 3 separate videos that provide beginners with the means to make cards. The 3 videos are on using watercolors with basic techniques, paper weaving and paper piecing. I decided to make these videos as I wanted all students to be able to convey the appreciation to their teachers who have worked incredibly hard in adapting to the constant changes during the pandemic to continuously support them in their education. The teachers in my son's school have made extraordinary efforts and are very supportive. Last year, when I sent one of them a thank you card, she was so appreciative of the acknowledgement of the hard work that had been done to adapt the current environment and keep the children's spirits up and interest peaked in ongoing lessons. Therefore, I thought it'd be great if everyone could say how they felt about their teachers via a card. My hope is that all of you who watch these videos will widen your experiences and take the plunge to make these cards for your teachers to tell them how much you appreciate them. It can be a card to anyone in your lives as you are able to adapt the greetings, colors, and techniques for any type of card for any occasion. It would be great if you would use the hashtag spreading handmade cheer and share your cards on social media, as I would love to see all of your creations. If you would like to see more videos like this, please like this video and subscribe, as well as press the notification bell so you will get an alert when there is a new video. But most importantly, please have fun when you make all these cards. Thank you. And here's the video now. I'm starting off with the yellows, oranges, and reds. I've got 2 yellows because the vermilion, which is the orange in this watercolor set, is quite reddish. So I'm going to put a little bit yellow to make it a brighter orange. When putting water into these watercolors, it's going to be a little bit more water because you need to be able to pull the watercolor into the pipette so you can put the droplets on the watercolor paper. You need to practice on the consistency of the watercolor to make sure you get the right size droplets. You don't want it too watery or you don't want it too thick so that you can use the straw or the blower to blow it into splatters. And blowing it from different angles give you different patterned splatters. It does not matter what type of watercolor you use. Nowadays, watercolors comes in pan sets, in cake form, as well as liquid watercolors. Liquid watercolors are a little bit more pricey from what I've seen, but the pan sets and the tubes are pretty affordable. So I tend to go with tubes. I've always had tubes, but I also have got a couple of pan sets which are relatively inexpensive. They all do the same job. So it doesn't matter what watercolor set you have, just use what watercolor set you have. And if you're going to invest in anything, you should invest in good watercolor paper so that it can hold a good amount of water without tearing the paper or warping the paper, which is why a good watercolor paper goes a long way when you're doing a color wash or watery splatters. I hope you enjoyed this process. Never ending, the number of splatters and droplets you can put and create. You need to hold yourself back. I like to have some of the white of the watercolor paper showing, which is what I call the negative space, but it's totally up to you. Let your creative process take you to where the splatters lead. adding colors to the various splatters. For example, when there's light blue, I add some yellow, so you get green. Where there's some yellow, I add some red, so you get some orange. So you see mixtures of colors. I try not to color the entire space, but I keep adding splatters until I think the design looks pretty good. And that's what you need to do until you feel the design is what you're looking for. Here I've taped the watercolor paper down onto my glass mat with painter's tape. The reason I've done this is because I'm going to saturate it with water using my flat brush. I'm going to do a wash. Wet on wet technique is what it's called in watercolor terms. So I'm going to paint lots of water on it. This is why you need really good watercolor paper, so it can handle the water and not warp or tear. So initially I put lots of water on it, and then I put a little bit of paint and really light wash across the entire length of the paper. Watercoloring requires some patience, so if you layer colors on dried previous layers, you get a more intense color, and that's what I'm doing with this. So I can mix my blues and greens and get some teal and get some gradation of color that I want. So I wanted it to be a little bit more intense and darker than the first color wash. After letting the watercolor papers air dry, I removed the painter's tape and cut it down to the right size to adhere onto card fronts. The card base is an A6 card which measures 14.8 centimeters by 10.5 centimeters, roughly 6 by 4 inches. Now, in order to get a nice frame, a border around the card base, the card front, which is the watercolor wash, it needs to be cut down to 13.8 centimeters by 9.5 centimeters by cutting out a centimeter on the length and the width, which is two sides of the card front. I'll get a nice border, which is what I do, and that is to give it a nice frame. For the sentiment, use any clear packaging, any plastic, clear plastic that you have. You don't need to go and buy any acetate or transparency. Use what you have at home. And that's what I have done. I've used some clear packaging that I've got something delivered in or as a product that I had. I've kept it, used it in this. So what you do is you overlay it on a printed sentiment. Now, if you don't have a printer and you don't have a printed sentiment, use any magazine periodical that you have to trace out the letters that you need to make out the sentiment that you want to pen or print or script in front of the card that you have made. there's quite a bit of space on the watercolor card, I decided to do some doodling. Now, I generally use the Pentel gel pen or any outline pen in black. I to doodle some foliage. That's what I generally like to doodle, either foliage or abstract shapes with fine lines, circles, squiggles in those shapes, or even bubbles around a shape or in a shape. These are the doodlings I tend to do. But everyone's got their own brand of doodling, I'd like their own type of doodling that they're comfortable with. These are things you do when you just randomly do squiggles with your pen or pencil. And you can make patterns and shapes and out of them and practice to see what suits a particular color, a particular shape of card, a particular space on a card, and go with it. And here, because it's got the blue sky, what I take as a sky, and the green at the bottom, I decide to do some leaves, etc. It's just various doodles that I've done before. Now I'm using black here because the color is quite light. If it's a darker color, I would use a white gel pen. I'll have details on which white gel pen is good on my blog. I've got a lot more details and links on my blog, so do visit my blog to get more information. The link to my blog is in the description below. Now I'm going to use leaves, the back of leaves, because the front of the leaves are a little bit smooth. So I'm going to use the back of the leaves as a stamp. Put some watercolor with my brush onto it and stamp it onto the watercolor paper. Now if you see all of those paints on my paint palette, all the colors I had before, and I just put some water on it to activate the paint again. I rarely wash my paint palette. I keep using the same colors on it. So with this technique, the consistency of the paint is quite important, just like the previous splatter technique. So you need to try and see. You can't have it too watery, if not you just get big splotches. because you want to try and get the impression of the veins on the leaf. So you want to try a few consistencies to see what suits the paper that you have. What I tend to do is I tend to put two colors and blend it in the middle. So I use a yellow and a blue, so you get a greenish color in the middle. And for another one, I use a red and blue, so you get a purplish color in the middle. I like to see that mixtures. See, the first stamp, when it doesn't work, you can keep putting color on it and stamp in the same place or parts of it. So it's not going to be a perfect image, so you can take advantage of that imperfection and keep adding colors as you see fit. It's quite fun to do this. So you can either put one big print of a leaf, you can even just leave it with one print of a leaf, or you could cover the whole background. In fact, I think it'd be quite interesting to use just one big leaf and just use it right in the middle and then write your sentiment across it. I don't have an example of that here, but I've just covered my background. But there's so many possibilities that you could try. Now that I've done all the card fronts, I get the appropriate fun forms that I want to add behind the watercolor papers to provide dimension, as well as the card bases. For the card that is leaves with the purple and red and blue, I decided to add strips of colored card at the bottom and top of the card just to add some different looks to the card. And here for the leaves that are yellow and blue and a little bit of green, I end up not using the cards to write the sentiments on. In fact, I write the sentiments directly onto the watercolor paper. You'll see what I do. Sometimes I do change my mind. I think I'm going to compile and assemble a card in a certain way, and as I put it together, it doesn't quite look the way I want it to, and I just change my mind. pen the sentiment directly onto the watercolor card using different pens. One was a 0.5 and one was a 0.8. So the different thickness of the nib produces a different script. And this is about trying different pens, different surfaces, and seeing what you're comfortable with so that your script will flow. It's about also practicing your lettering, and that will give you more confidence to write directly onto the card itself. I hope you enjoyed the video and will try these techniques. Try the watercolor techniques separately, the stamping with watercolor, the lettering. If you try them in practice, it'll give you the confidence to put these cards together. I hope you have fun doing all of that, and I would love to see your creations. Please use the hashtag #SpreadingHandmadeShare when you post your creations onto social media. And if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe and click the bell so you'll be notified of future videos. I would love to hear what you think of the videos. Do leave me a comment on any questions you may have and what kind of videos you'd like to see in the future. Would you like to learn more about crafting, about using watercolors, or the techniques you'd like to learn? Have a lovely day.